evening. It's going to get there.
You too.
I have no idea what time of day.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the Johnston City Council work session number 25-08 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ready? Burkhart?
Here.
Evans?
First item on the agenda is a presentation of the June 30th, 2024 audit.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Is somebody going to introduce this?
Mayor and Council, we have Sarah Bonsack with Bonsack and Frommel online to present the fiscal 24 audit. This was on the agenda back on the March 17th meeting to be accepted, to be able to be filed for federal and state filing deadlines. So this is just the presentation to the council.
Okay. Sarah? You can't hear her.
Sarah, we can't hear you.
Hello?
There we
There
go.
we go.
We can hear you now, Sarah.
Success. I'm so sorry about that.
Not a
Okay.
problem.
I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation for you tonight. Okay. The first slideshow.
There we go.
This is the results of the audit. When we come out to do an audit of the city, we actually do 3 different types of audit. The first one is the financial statement audit, and we've issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statement audit. The second audit that we do is referred to as a government auditing standards audit. And the purpose of that audit is really twofold. One is to look at your internal control system and to test it to make sure that it's functioning as it was designed to function. And the second part of that is to look at your compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. Within the financial statements, there's a summary schedule of prior year findings, which is on page 89 of those financial statements. In the prior year, the city had 5 findings. 4 of those were corrected, which is significant progress. The 5th one was repeated in regard to the payroll process, but management and staff is currently working on alleviating that condition, and part of that was due to the timing. The third type of audit that we do is a federal single audit. There was an unmodified opinion issued on that audit. This year, the city had $1,466,000 worth of federal expenditures. This year, we tested the highway planning and construction grant, which was about $750,000 of those dollars. There were no material weaknesses reported, no significant deficiencies reported, and no compliance. So overall, a very clean report this year. The next couple of graphs are just looking at kind of a high-level analysis of the year. The first one is the governmental funds revenue. This, in 2024, the city had $44,961,000 of governmental revenue compared to $43,091,000 the year before. So an increase of about 1.9 million. As you look across the bars, you can see that property tax did increase approximately $623,000. That's primarily due to your increase in assessed value. But the big one to note is in the use of money and property, which increased $1,188,000. And that's just due to your available interest rates this year. So that was good news. The next graph is looking at your governmental funds expenditures. In 2024, the city had $51,636,000 of expenditures compared to 2023, which was $49,040,000 of expenditures. So all in all, an increase of about 2.6 million. That's primarily in the public safety. That was an increase to the city's payment to the JGMFD 28E agreement, which was approximately 2.8 million. You'll also see that community development increased about 1.2 million. Those are those planned expenditures, and they are non-capitalized, so they do show up in that line. Your debt service increased about $1,089,000. In fiscal year 24, the city paid $10.2 million in principal and about $4.5 million in interest on debt that you've used for your projects. In the current year, the city issued an additional $8.2 million. And the last line item is the capital outlay. Capital outlay decreased approximately $2.2 million, and that fluctuates based on your planned projects and spending of those bond proceeds. The last graph is looking at your enterprise funds, so your water, sewer, and stormwater fund. This year, the water fund had a net position increase of about 1.9 million. The sewer fund had net position increase of about 450,000. And the stormwater net position increased about 1.6 million. All 3 of the enterprise generated positive net cash from operations. And I will note that the revenue includes capital contributions of about 2 million from developer contributions and projects that are funded in the governmental funds. In the prior year, it was about 2.4 million. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Council, have any questions for Sarah? Sarah, well, it appears to me, all in all, we have a good report here.
I agree, yes.
We have that one small little issue we needed to take care of, but as you said, that was a timing issue, so we should be on a path to get that taken care of as well, so. Very good. Council, anything at all?
I just wondered, maybe Sarah, it didn't appear that the PowerPoint presentation she was using was on the agenda.
It was not.
So if you could maybe get that.
Yep.
And then circulate it, that would be great.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
A lot of good information in that.
Sense.
That would be good to have. Well, thank you, Sarah, for your good work on this. Appreciate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.
Okay, we have one other item on the work session agenda this evening, and that is the Beaver Creek Crosswalk presentation.
Good evening. Let me bring up the presentation. All right, it's hard to believe, but it was a little bit over a year ago that Sam Postma reached out regarding a project that he was working on. Sam is a Johnston High School graduate and a community and regional planning student at Iowa State University. I'll let Sam introduce a few more of his accomplishments later on in the presentation. Sam's project was researching and designing a pedestrian crossing. We did include the full report in the board docs packet. Public Works staff and Nate Whipple with both met with Sam to review the project and provide feedback and comments on the design concepts that he had brought forward. Sam took those comments and he retooled some of those designs that he had brought forward and provided different options for a pedestrian crossing at Beaver Creek Elementary School there on Northwest 86th Street that would help service the Augustine neighborhood on the east side of the road. Sam's worked hard and has a well thought out approach with the designs. We thought it would be a great opportunity for Sam to gain some experience in presenting the information to the city council and for you to review those pedestrian crossing design concepts. Just to remind council that we do have a planned trail extension along 86th Street that will run from Northwest 62nd Avenue north to Northwest 70th. It is in our 5-year community investment program. That section of trail and a pedestrian crossing would be one project. It would be a joint project there. We'd always kind of planned to put that crossing with that trail extension. The trail extension project is slated for 2027 for design and construction in 2028. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sam.
Real quick question.
Yes.
The trail then would be on the east side of the road?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. Like Matt said, I'm Sam. I'm a lifelong Johnston resident, currently a junior at Iowa State studying urban planning. Tonight I have a self-led research project on a significant safety issue near Beaver Creek on Northwest 86th Street. Like Matt said, the full report can be found in the agenda item. And yeah, so thanks for the opportunity to present, and I look forward to our discussion tonight. As I said, I graduated from the district in May 2022, and the fall after that, I started my freshman year at Iowa State. My last year, my sophomore year, I studied abroad twice, one time for a semester in England and one time I did a week-long class in Austria. And kind of between those two study abroad experience, it opened my eyes to how European countries really prioritize walking and biking. And I began to reflect how we can do better here in Johnston. Like I said, my research kind of began between those two study abroad experiences. And being able to experience the built environment from the perspective of a person without a car or in a mobility device made me reflect back on my hometown. And this led me to pursue some improvements around Beaver Creek, given its relationship with Northwest 86th Street and the Augustine neighborhood across the street. I conducted walkability assessments, analyzed previous traffic plans, gathered input from key stakeholders like Public Works, planning, and some of the residents and school officials as well. And taking all that into consideration, I had made some crosswalk improvements and developed this final report. For those who aren't already aware, I'll go past that one. Beaver Creek Elementary is situated to the west of Northwest 86th Street, which is in the middle there. This portion of Northwest 86th Street is 4 lanes wide. It's about 13 feet per lane, so 52 feet wide. Has a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour and a 25-mile-an-hour school zone. On the other side of Northwest 86th Street is the Augustine neighborhood, which is 51 homes and a popular trail that connects Johnston residents to that neighborhood and then the school across the street. And that's the Augustine neighborhood is also in the school's catchment area. For residents living in the Augustine neighborhood that want to bike or walk to school, the quickest and most convenient option is the painted crosswalk near Lyndhurst Ave, just south of the school. The current crosswalk is truly just paint on pavement, and going across 52 feet of roadway as a child is very dangerous, and for any pedestrian, not just children. There's a lack of crossing guards, a lack of adequate signing and warnings, sections of incomplete sidewalk, which Matt mentioned, there is that trail going in, and vehicle congestion at pickup and drop-off times, and overall is an area that doesn't prioritize pedestrian movement, which a school should. For some context, that's what there is today. And if I were a student walking, biking, or rolling from the Augustine neighborhood to the school, I could 1, cross at that painted crosswalk, 2, go up to 70th and cross at that signal, and then 3, go to 62nd and cross at that signal. However, currently there are major gaps in the sidewalk system. So trying to cross safely at a signal would result in traversing over unpaved segments, and not to mention backtracking about a half a mile just to cross the street. Now that we're familiar with how the site sits today, I want to go over some crash analysis that I've gotten from the Iowa DOT's crash analysis tool. These are crashes that have happened in the school zone between the years of 2015 and 2025. Within the posted school zone. In total, there were 16 vehicles involved, 26 occupants involved. 4 of the crashes themselves, 2 of them were because of vehicles following too closely, 2 were interior driver distractions, 5 were rear end collisions, 1 was a T-bone style of crash, and 2 were single vehicle crashes. Injury status for that, luckily there have been no fatalities. 2 of the crashes were kind of minor injuries, and then 3 had complaints of some sort of pain. Next, from my many conversations with Eric Toot, the principal at Beaver Creek, he expressed the following safety concerns surrounding the school in Northwest 86th Street. The roadway is very wide, as I mentioned. Beaver Creek, one thing he expressed is Beaver Creek is not just a place for students. Oftentimes you see youth sports practices happening in the evenings. So it's really an amenity for our entire community, not just the students. He's received recurrent safety concerns expressed by parents in the Augustine neighborhood for, wanting various improvements in the area. There's been extreme traffic and congestion during the peak drop-off and pickup times, as well as reckless vehicle behavior as parents get in and out of the line. And then busing students from the Augustine neighborhood, which the district does, is kind of their alternative to kids walking across. But as Johnston grows, I'm sure we'll keep having a demand for buses. So having buses that short of a distance might be resource inefficient. Similarly, with my engagement with some of the residents in the Augustine neighborhood, they've expressed that they wanted crossing guards. They wanted to have something there, whether it was a tunnel or an overpass, so their kids didn't have to cross the road. One resident said that their kids would ask to move entirely across the street to the Green Meadows North because it was easier to get to the school and play with their friends. And then there's a trail that goes from the school near John Deere Financial that is in pretty rough shape too. So kind of based on all these conversations and feedback, I'm proposing that the city installs some sort of signalized pedestrian crossing in this area, and that would include the pedestrian or the signal, traffic calming measures, and facilities for people on foot and on bike. And just for reference, that star there is the proposed location, so it's near that northern driveway to the school. I've developed 4 crossing options, ranked from most to least protective, and then these have each of these have cost and safety trade-offs as well. As a reminder, here is what Northwest 86th Street looks like now, just the 4 lanes and then the paths on either side. And then this first option, which is the preferred option, includes the high-intensity activated crosswalk or HAWK signal. That's the overhead signals there. This option includes 4 of those signals, one mounted above each lane, which is the typical kind of setup for that. The HAWK signal mimics a conventional traffic signal that we're all used to, and it goes through a cycle of yellow, red, and red flashing lights when the pedestrian clicks the button. Having overhead signals provides that sense of enclosure, which naturally helps drivers slow down and proceed with more caution when there's kind of that visual clutter in the way. This is the most expensive of the 4 options, coming in at $243,800. But it is, like I said, the preferred alternative, and it is supported by the Federal Highway Administration's document. It's called the Guide for Improving Pedestrian Safety at Uncontrolled Crossing Locations. And that was the recommended solution for roadways of this size, speed, and capacity. The second option uses rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RFBs. It's a different signal type. Then basically those are also pedestrian activated and flash a yellow light back and forth. This option uses 4 of those mounted to the ground and includes the pedestrian refuge island, or that raised median you see in the middle. The cost for this option is $81,968, and that excludes whatever the city's rates are for that raised median, that extra concrete in there. This is the second safest option, as that median provides that vertical kind of refuge for pedestrians, and then it also would temporarily narrow the traffic lanes as cars go by, so naturally they would drive slower through that area. The third option is a bit similar to the first option, but uses RFBs mounted overhead rather than the HAWK style signals. These are still pedestrian activated, a bit cheaper than the HAWK signals. And again, with the signals being overhead, they provide that kind of better sense of enclosure on the roadway. The cost for this one would be $93,800. And then the final option, which I have categorized as the least safest, would be 2 RFBs mounted to the ground, or the pavement. This option is obviously cheaper since there's the less signals, so it's around $41,800. But it is the least protective because there are less signals and the pedestrians aren't as visible and as they might be in the other options. So while Northwest 86th Street hasn't seen any fatalities yet, God forbid, we know the dangers of unsafe crossings. In 2017, my classmate in middle school, Ali Hashim, was tragically killed on Merle Hay Road while riding his bike. This tragedy, along with Johnston's growing population, the state of distracted driving here in Iowa and across the United States, new technology and vehicles causing distractions, things like that, and the increase in pedestrian fatalities in the United States, this project underscores the need for proactive safety measures here in our community before another tragedy happens. Yeah, and I think these improvements will make Beaver Creek and maybe inspire more change like this across the rest of Johnston, and help make active living a nicer thing here in the city. So I appreciate you guys' time, and I hope that the council will consider these steps and take the right steps to explore some of these solutions, and hope to answer any questions you guys have tonight.
Sam, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for this great presentation. Thank you for the good work that you've done on this.
Thank you.
The research and pulling together the data and the recommendations. This is great stuff. We work very hard to provide recreation trails and all kinds of those outdoor excuse me, activities for our residents. I may have to let somebody else speak for a minute. And as we do that, we need to make sure that it is safe for our residents when they cross the streets. This is a road that I'm very, very familiar with because I drive it all the time. And I know that it doesn't present the safest crossing for young people or older people. I'm wondering why you selected the specific location that you did. Is it kind of in the center of the Augustine development or why right there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was looking at different kind of treatments that are commonly used, a lot of them were they're mid-block crossings, so not like a complete intersection. So, and again, the proximity to it being kind of in the center of the Augustine neighborhood was a big thing too. So one family didn't have to travel as far as the other, that type of thing. But yeah, when I was looking at these treatments, most of them were mid-block types of crossings, and so these signals work best at that type of thing. Since they are like a temporarily activating, they're not a complete intersection where cars would fully stop on the 4 street entrances. So it's just the common best practice.
So once they get across the street, they would still have to take the sidewalk all the way down to the drive? then
Yeah,
up
and
again?
yeah, they would have to take that sidewalk. Just
Does it make sense to put another sidewalk to the school somewhere?
There is a sidewalk along that drive on the north side of the drive. So
Yeah.
they would have access to a sidewalk that would take them up to the building.
yeah, that's right. There's
Where's the sidewalk?
It's located right here on the north side.
Oh, okay.
it's right
okay.
against the curb.
Okay, just can't
I
see
think
it.
that's for like parent drop-off type.
Yeah, it blends in because it is the sidewalk. right in
Okay,
the back.
that makes sense to me then. Okay,
That's their bus drop off right there, their parent pickup.
okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council?
Sam, just, so looking at option 2, the raised median in the middle, is there a cost element to that? I don't really see that built into your proposal.
Yeah, I'd probably have to refer to Matt on what those would usually cost. I don't think that's probably the route the city would go, but if so, I don't know what those usually cost.
Yeah, I mean, roughly, we could potentially do that with our own staff to put in the raised median. So
Okay.
I believe that's why that cost was omitted, because we could do that with city staff. But you're looking probably in that $6,000 to $8,000 range, or under $10,000 to add that in if we had a.
So that's not a significant impact. It seems like the main cost driver difference is the reflecting beacon is only 20,000 a piece, whereas the hawk signal is almost 60,000 a piece, which really that's the main difference between the different approaches. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the major cost difference. And I think the signal option in the first, in option number 1, I've used these as a cyclist and a driver. These are the most like a regular traffic signal. To me, they're the most visible, because sometimes in the daylight, these beacons, to me, if the sun is shining on them, the flashing yellow light is hard to see. So just becomes, the first option is more visible. And also it was recommended by that Federal Highway Administration document too.
The hawk signal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those have become pretty popular around the metro. You see them.
Yeah, Des Moines, I think the Des Moines School District has a lot of them near their schools.
I see them in Ankeny too, and other
Yeah.
places in the metro. Great, thank you.
Brian?
You ready to run the call?
You want,
Go, why don't you
oh,
go ahead.
okay.
You can grill him and then I'll. pick up the
Then you
pieces.
pick it up,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll make him feel good
Make
again.
sure, yeah, okay. He is an Iowa State student.
And yes, so you will be kind.
All right. So I work up at Iowa State. That's why I'm going to be very protective of you. Although I don't think you need protection. First off, I want to just ask you a question. You presented some research on traffic accidents in that stretch for the last 10 years. Were any of the accidents that were listed have anything to do with bike riders or pedestrians on the street, on the sidewalks, or crossing the street?
I don't think they did, or very many of them did. The full reports are also in the agenda item, I believe, so that they go into a lot more depth, but I don't think they did. Mostly just vehicle to vehicle or a fixed object along the road or something like that.
Okay. Can you explain, I know you're not an engineer, traffic engineer, but the option one, the hawk signals, and I think all of these costs that you're presenting are not installation costs. These are just the items.
I believe so.
Okay. So the hawk signals cost, according to your document, $57,000 a piece. But then on option 3, when we're talking about the, and I'm not sure what the RRFB stands for, those only cost $20,000 a piece. What makes the hawk signal so much more expensive than they're both accessed by pedestrians to turn them on, correct? So why is one so overwhelmingly more expensive than the other? Do you have any idea about that?
I don't have the best idea. I don't, Matt, if you have.
It operates more like a traffic signal in and of itself, so you just have more electrical components that drive that cost up. So,
But they're both activated.
they're both pedestrian activated.
Right, so
Right.
you turn it on and it goes through a timer, or does it have any
Yeah,
motion sensor or?
No,
anything?
it has a timer, but then you've got 2 different style of lights, so it's more complicated. Your rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or your RRFB, that's just your yellow flashing light, which you see out here on 62nd by Corteva. The hawk signal, it'll flash, kind of wig-wag yellow, and then it goes into red. So it's just a little more complicated. Your costs are just, it drives them up.
Okay. Well, actually, that answers all my questions. Well, no, I have one more. We've actually had a person die crossing Morrill Hay Road a couple years ago, not far from the Dairy Queen, or,
Wendy's.
well, it was kind of in between
yeah.
the two. If the city of Johnston had to prioritize where to put a hawk signal, what do you think would be, I mean, I'm asking you because council has to deal with these issues. How do we judge which one is the place we need to put that signal up before another?
I would say schools being such an amenity to the entire community, having safe access to those is where I would stand. I know Morrill Hay, in that area, there's a lot more traffic signals, regular signals.
Not as far to go to find a place where there's an active site to cross, right?
That's my thoughts for that question.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilman Burkhart.
Sam, tremendous job. I really value all the input and all the work that you provided, and you carry yourself incredibly well to be able to present your findings. And so I start with that. I also love the fact that you listed off in the full report, and I encourage other folks, if you haven't had a chance, to look at some of those anticipated questions, because I think they are very applicable to kind of the pushback sometimes we hear as far as this is not practical, this will slow me down, this will decrease traffic, and I think you do an excellent job of trying to address those head on. So thank you for all of that. One question I have, if I can ask you to turn back to the proposed solution slide with the map, with your bright red and yellow star. That location, I know the mayor already kind of directed some attention to where your proposed location is. Just north of that location is an exit to at least one of the 2 Augustine neighborhoods there. Do you anticipate that southbound traffic would in fact kind of block or impede access onto 86th Street while they're waiting for someone to pass by?
I mean, I think the time in which the signal is actually activated is 30 seconds or so, just long enough for it to slow down traffic and then to get kids across. So Yeah, I'd have to see it. I don't know off the top of my head if it would or not, but if it would, for not very long, I would expect.
Okay. The other question I have, and you could churn either to the Hawk proposal or the kind of overhead mounted RFB. What's the proposed height on something like those crossbars? And frankly, is there an effective height, or is there a height at which they're no longer effective? And I'll even let you in as to why I'm asking this question, and it may involve Matt at some point weighing in. That seems like 86th is a non-interstate way to connect to points north without, if we had oversized loads on semis or other types of things like that, and perhaps even Camp Dodge. I just am hesitant to try to put something over the top and potentially impede that type of traffic. So I guess the question I have is, how high would those be in an ideal world? What's the highest effective height that they could be? And maybe you can't answer those off the top of your head, but I'm more nosy and wanting to learn.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Matt and I, when I met with him in the past, we talked about the things with Camp Dodge, and they'd have to maintain truck access through here. That's definitely important. For the height, I'd say they'd probably be the height of regular traffic signals you see at 70th or 62nd. I don't know what the most effective height is. There's probably a number out there, but it'd be high enough where trucks can go under it for sure. I don't know, Matt, if there's a...
Yeah, I mean, I think recommended height would be about 13 feet, 6 inches, 14 feet to get semi-clearance underneath that, because 86th Street is the convoy route for Camp Dodge. So it is Interstate 86 to 70th. So we would have to maintain that. We could work with Camp Dodge, but usually it's around that 14 feet is your maximum height or your minimum height to be raised above.
Again, great job. Thank you for coming before us.
Thank
Councilman
you.
Reddy?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I appreciate your proposed solution. The last name, Postma, seems very familiar to me. I can't recall how I know that name, but I think I know you somewhere. But anyways, and my daughter graduated from your class as well.
I think so, yeah.
22.
Arushi, yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know her.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. I had a question about the same thing, about the red thing that you had up on that. Can you go back
Oh,
to
yeah.
the slide?
Yep.
I don't have a question now, but I had a question of why did you choose that one? And there's now a path, a walkway between that point to the school, to the sidewalk there. I did not knew that either. So that was my question, actually.
It's tough to see, but it's probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 foot wide. It's curb tight that goes all the way up to the school.
Okay.
In the playground.
Okay. So the second question I had was the school. In the school timings, I think the traffic slows down there. So I think people can stop there and do everything. Non-school time, when people want to walk across to go and to use that facility.
Yeah, there are signal activated speed. There are speed reduction. It's activated for speed school or school speed zone. So it reduces down to 25 during drop off and pickup
Yeah,
times.
at the school
in that
time,
area.
but non-school time is,
On school times, it's not activated.
so that's still going to be at 35 and still need to stop and make that happen. Okay.
The signal can be activated any time of the day, so it's not just during the school time. It can be activated by anyone, anytime.
So when we put that signal, we don't need a guard kind of thing up there.
We wouldn't need a guard if you had the hawk signal. That is a stop condition for for the vehicles. The rapid flashing beacon, warns folks that there is a pedestrian in the crosswalk crossing. So they are legally supposed to stop if you have a crosswalk and a crossing, but really that red light would draw more attention to the drivers, the vehicles. It's because it acts more of a traffic signal, but it would just be pedestrian activated.
Although I'm surprised that Augustine has been right across and there's no crossing guard for a while now. So I'm kind of surprised how that actually.
School, they have deemed the Augustine area, they bust that just because it is a safety issue. And they don't feel comfortable with putting a crossing guard on 86th Street because you have 4 lanes of traffic. So They do have a crossing guard like at Horizon Elementary, but it's a stop condition because you have a stoplight there. Much like on 62nd where that's 4 lanes, they have a crossing guard at the stoplight. So in those conditions where you have a stop condition, they do have crossing guards, but there is no stop condition on.
Okay. All right, I think this solution probably works better. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that, taking the time and effort to make this and bring it to us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So Matt, a question that just occurred to me after you made those comments, and that is that if we were to decide to pursue any of these options, we would need to have a conversation with the school.
Yes, when we look to do the trail project and incorporate a crossing there at the school, we would definitely bring all those stakeholders in. We would bring the school in. We'd hold public meetings like we normally do for all of our projects to get that feedback. Yep.
I mean, even with a good crossing, they still might want to put a crossing guard out there.
Yeah, if you have the hawk signal, then they absolutely may want to put a crossing guard out there.
Sure, just to ensure the safety of the kids crossing the street. Yeah, okay.
Would this be a project that'd be funded through the CIP, so you have sort of a lead time in knowing when to plan for it, or how would this type of thing work?
Yeah, it's currently in our 5-year community
Okay.
investment program for design in 2027 and construction in 28.
Thank you.
It's just a couple of years out, so this is really great timing to kind of get a jump on this. We'd have some options. We could share those with the engineer that was selected to design the project.
Any other questions, council? Well, again, Sam, thank you for bringing this to us this evening. We wish you the best as you continue to pursue your educational career, and please keep us in mind in the future when you're graduated from college and out there job seeking.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Mike, we have about 18 minutes left. You've got lots of comments to make tonight, right?
I don't have any comments tonight. And I don't dance very well either, so. I don't know if
Thanks for
there's
letting us know.
Look, is there any staff comments tonight?
Any staff comments tonight?
There's a few staff comments, so.
Good evening. Since we've got a couple minutes to fill, this is really just more of a general update. If you go back to the discussions we had with the school board many months ago with the shared meeting, we talked about the school resource officer 2080 agreement coming due at the end of June of this year. Just to make you generally aware, Dr. Ward and I have begun discussions on that as far as an extension to that 2080 agreement. She's speaking with her board as well. There's a lot of unknowns, obviously, with the legislative session and financial pieces to that, and there's still some legislation potentially working through the Ways and Means Committee that may offset some costs for school resource officers, but generally, I think what we're structuring at this point to bring back to both the school board and the council sometime in May would likely be a 2-year extension of the existing agreement with an option then to potentially expand that agreement a couple years afterwards. So if anybody has any feedback on that, you don't have to give it to me right now, you're welcome to, but if there's anything you'd like to discuss about that, please let me know in the next week or two, as the school district's going to start with kind of revitalizing the agreement, refreshing it. We'll get it through our legal as well, and then ideally bringing it back in May to essentially just continue with the current program for a couple years and ideally open the door to be able to add that third school resource officer down the road if it's possible.
Mayor, can I pose a question to the chief? Chief, and I just want to confirm, I think you concluded by saying it, when you say potentially expand that contract, that's what you mean by adding a third?
Right, when we talked at the planning session with the district, we talked very generally about that. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, both on the district staffing side and the police department staffing side. In our 5-year staffing plan for the police department, about 3 years out still is where we were generally looking at that. So the hope would be that everything settles out and maybe there's even a new means to finance some of that. And if that's the case, then I think we could potentially look officer to our program as a whole. Again, probably year 3-ish, maybe year 4-ish of that extension.
Can you remind me and potentially the rest of the council what our current financing arrangement is with the?
It's 60/40. So the city pays 40%, the school district pays 60%. So we're going to continue that model over the course of this renewal. I think there'll be very, very minimal changes outside of just refreshing some dates and then trying to add something in there for potential opener down the road to be able to reevaluate things. Or obviously, if there's some major shift in finances somewhere, would give the city and the district options that way as well.
Thank you.
If the current arrangement that we have has been in place for how long?
4 years, well, the program initially started in 2007, but each of the renewals that I've done since I've been here, I think have been 4-year agreements. So I'm not sure which iteration of that we're on, but we're in our 4th year right now.
So we've had 2 resource officers for how long?
2011-ish, I believe, somewhere right in
Quite a
there.
while.
So it'll continue as it sits right now with a full-time school resource officer at the high school, one at the middle school. The idea of adding the 3rd would be for the elementary schools and the 5-6 middle school. I'm sorry, 6-7.
6-7, yeah.
Lots of numbers.
Any other questions, council?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other staff comments?
Council, just a quick reminder that we have our wet down push-in ceremony this Thursday. We'll be monitoring the weather. If we need to adapt, we may be holding most of the ceremony inside the station.
A dry in?
And just be drying it off after Mother Nature wets it down. But anyway, just a reminder that that'll start at 5 o'clock this Thursday, the 24th.
Wonderful.
Mayor and Council, I am pleased to introduce that we have made a hire in the Planner 2 position in the Community Development Department. Michael Delp, who was previously with the City of Des Moines for about 4 years doing plan review, commercial reviews, much the same kind of work that he is doing here now, as well as some time with the DOT before that. So just wanted to introduce him, and you will see his face many times in the coming weeks. So,
Well, welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Thanks.
We're excited that you are, so. Matt?
Yeah, I just got a couple of reminders. We've got our Green Meadows West Sidewalk Program, kind of our construction kickoff meeting that is tomorrow night here at 5:30. And then we've got our Northwest Saylorville Water Main Construction Kickoff meeting, and that is May 6th from 5:30 to 6:30, and you should have received invites to both of those. So just want
I
to.
noticed that they're already at work in Green Meadows West, replacing the ramps.
Yeah, we went ahead and let the contractor, they wanted to get started, so we let them start on the ramps, the city's portion, but they were instructed not to do any of the resident sections until we were able to hold the public meeting.
I'm busy out there. I think it started probably early last week.
Yeah, they've been out there, right there at that, kind of that Crescent Chase and Foxborough area, working on ramps. So they plan to move kind of north to south through the neighborhood, so got a really good price on our resident panels, so looking forward to sharing that tomorrow night.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Matt, don't go away if possible. Can you give a very brief update on where we are with regard to Central Iowa Water and their now installation, or what was the Des Moines Water Works trunk lines through there at Merle Hay and underneath, and where we are right now?
Yeah, so they've got pipe installed. They are working on, we've got actually 55th Avenue was closed earlier this week, so they've got to do a little rearranging of some sanitary and storm sewer at that intersection, but they have water main up to that point. They will cross that with their water main, and then just a little bit beyond that, they cross underneath the road to the east side, and they'll continue. They're supposed to have that completed by July of this year. Okay. Really, once they get across to the east side of Beaver Drive and really kind of out of that right of way, there really shouldn't be much for utilities to work around. So the process should speed up once they get over to the east side and kind of outside of the city's right away. Like I said, that's supposed to be completed by July, in the end of July. We just paved, or their contractor paved trail on the west side of Merle Hay. So we have trail through the city's Beaver Creek Bank Stabilization Project up to the Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh. They were supposed to be pouring that connection up to Merle Hay, so we can access that trail here shortly once we get it backfilled. They do have approximately 6 leaks between the Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh and where our dog park site will be. So that's kind of got our trail project slowed down. They're currently actively working on identifying those leaks and getting those repaired. Once that's done, then we can put in the trail up to Johnston Drive and kind of get back to somewhat normal through that area.
I don't install water line ever, and so is this typical that they would have that many leaks, or is this an anomaly?
We typically don't install their concrete pipe that they use for water mains, so it seems like it's quite a few in a short area, but that was kind of as they were wrapping up last winter. I wouldn't think that they would have that many leaks in that short of an area, but from what I have seen, when they push those together and they have a rubber gasket around them, it may be very easily, if they were cold, that they could have rolled one of those joints and created a leak point.
Will the kayak launch at that area impact the trail at all, or closure of the trail? In other words, I know we have a lot of folks getting really antsy to get back on that trail, so.
I will turn back here to Jeff.
Thank you.
I believe it will cross that, but I think the concrete should lead up, kind of jump the trail and.
Yeah, so the concrete will actually get done for the trail before we're in there doing the Beaver Creek access. But the contractor knows that they have to keep that area, secured. If they are going to be having to go crossing to one side or the other of it, they'll have flaggers or people there to make sure that there are no people coming. It may have to be closed down for a day or two if they are doing something around there. They would make notifications at both ends to let people know that, but there shouldn't be too much impact. There should be a lot of days where people can still cross along that area.
Great, thank you.
Once we get that connection to the Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh too, we do have the trail along Merle Hay where they could then come up to Johnston Drive over to Beaver and across the bridge there and then get back on the trail. So we do have a detour in that area in case we do have to extend our closure.
Speaking of that trail through that area, I'm going to make mention, since you both spoke, I did mention this to Mike recently. I had a couple of residents kind of ambush me in a good way with regard to asking for consideration of that Johnston Drive crossing, the trail crossing there. And I know that Mike had assured that some ad hoc committees were going to be addressing that. If you need a student who knows how to plan crossings, I think I know a guy as far as that goes too. But I just want to kind of publicly state that I hope that we can hear back on some discussion with regard to that, whether it was, it started out as a cross-country coach wanting to make sure their runners were safe and immediately got dogpiled on by a couple of bicyclists and a runner, as well as even just a walker who enjoys the lights on the bridge. So all of those folks want to have a safe traversal to be able to get there. So.
Yeah, I know that in our upcoming fiscal budget, we did put in there for another set of rapid flashing beacons like what we installed on Windsor Parkway between Summit and Horizon. We're hoping to install those with our own staff. So we are planning that. We just a little bit of time.
Sure.
We'll get there.
That's awesome.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Any other staff comments? Okay, we have about 8 minutes left. Let's do city council comments.
I pass.
Ready. Councilman Colt.
Had a couple opportunities in the last week or so to attend a ribbon cutting where the business owner heaped a lot of praise on city staff for their work in helping in the process of getting the plans approved and developed. And so wanted to pass that along. And then also had a meeting recently with another business that has submitted plans. Business hasn't opened or broken ground, but also was very supportive of and wanted to make sure that I was aware that city staff was very helpful and took a very problem-solving approach to any issues that were coming up. So wanted to highlight that. That's always, I think, consistently something I've heard through my time on the council is that our staff has taken a very proactive approach and problem-solving approach on those things. But just wanted to pass along to continue to hear that from a couple of different examples. Also, attended the Lions Club pancake breakfast this past Saturday and had a person tell me how pleased they were with the daffodils around the city hall, which I know our public, I think either whether it's Public Works or park staff work very hard and have made a real priority the lawn, the kind of landscape maintenance here at the town center. And so just wanted to note that several residents are noticing that and wanted to pass that along as well. So that's all I had.
Councilman Burkhart.
I want to extend my thanks to city staff almost proactively. This spring becomes a very active time with regard to city activities between kites and bike rides and all sorts of other stuff. But I also want to say thank you for all you've done to get us through the winter as you transition equipment and you obviously work on plantings and everything else in between. You celebrate weeks at the library and everything else. My other comment with regard to that is I want to extend a sincere thanks to those within city staff that have worked so diligently with our legal counsel, with the developers, to try to get some very big projects continued on. Those development agreements don't happen on their own. They take a lot of reading and rereading and input and conversation. And I'm thankful that we're able to see those fruits of their labors today as we consider those development agreements in our full meeting. I just am so thankful that we have such capable folks willing to put in the time and the effort to do that, and then keep us in the loop as they can too for those conversations and considerations. Thanks so much.
I'll just be really brief. I heard back from people on the electronic recycling that we did two weekends ago. They said they were extremely pleased with the people that helped them out when they got into the parking lot. They thought there was a lot of people using it, which they didn't mind at all because they were happy to see the recycling happening. And so I thought I'd pass that on. Thanks.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Councilwoman Martin, because I participated in it. I had an old TV monitor that I needed to get rid of, and I was surprised when I was surprised by the number of people in line that took advantage of it, but how quickly and efficiently they processed people through it. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. So again, staff that helped arrange that and organize that, yes, thank you for that. Just a couple of other things that have happened since we last met, and I did send an email out to the council members, but I did want to mention it publicly. A week ago, the National Guard had a town hall meeting, and the purpose of the town hall meeting was to share with the public and with impacted family members that there's going to be a pretty major call up in about a month, the last part of May. They're looking at about 1,800 Iowa National Guard members being deployed. They'll start their training in Louisiana, but then they'll be sent to Syria, Kuwait, and Iraq, and they'll be on one-year deployments. Some of you may recall back in 2010 when we had a big call up at that time, and about 2,000 Iowans were involved, and I think most of them were sent to Afghanistan at the time. So this will be the second largest call up we've had since 2010. So just want to make you all aware of that, and you know, certainly keep those individuals and their families in mind as you know, they're responding to their mission and you know, going places to keep us safe and to protect us. So I wanted to share that. Also, a week ago Saturday, we had the annual kite building event at the Johnston City Library. And I always go to that because it's an amazing opportunity to see how you know, how much diversity we have in our community. I don't think we have any event in our community that pulls from the different racial and ethnic backgrounds that we have in our community, like our Kites on the Green or our kites building activity. And I attribute that to the fact that, you know, every culture, every ethnic background has kites as part of their heritage. I mean, it was one of the first toys that was ever created in the world. And so no matter where you're from in the world, kites were a toy that were part of your culture. And so when, when I went to it on Saturday, I wasn't surprised to see just, a whole rainbow of, family members, children and their parents there. And it was a 2-hour event and the room was full the entire time. So great event. And I want to just thank the staff, Holly and her group, as well as the communications staff who gets the word out to our residents about the event. It was an amazing thing to be a part of. So thank you very much for making that possible. So with that, I think we have just about used up all of our extra time. So is there anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn the work session? Okay, we are adjourned and we'll come back in for the full council meeting in 2 minutes.